Thank you for your videos. I just want to tell you that.
Thank you for contacting me.
So helpful to so many people. You know, getting the word out there, it's really important because this veganism, diet, craze, whatever, is really a risk to people's health, I think. So kudos.
Yeah, thank you.
So how much time do we have and what should I do? I don't know. This is the first time I've ever done.
It's your story. You have the floor. I pretty much just tell people to start by introducing themselves and then start by like how you got into veganism, symptoms you had, you know, its effect on you, how you felt transitioning out of it, what kind of foods you incorporated, just anything that you find someone would resonate with. Okay,
that's great. I actually took some notes. So,
okay.
I'm just a note taker. Anyway, I guess I should start with just saying who I am. I'm 60 years old. I was born in 1958, and I'm going to make that kind of a note because there's been such a huge transition in terms of diet from the 50s into present day, and that had a lot of bearing on my life. I kind of lived through that whole transition, so a lot of the points that I might cover will include, you know, the historical perspective. I live in Wisconsin. It's very cold here right now. I basically grew up in a meat-eating household, normal, everyday, standard American diet. I guess it was meat, potatoes, and canned beans. But we ate a lot of really nourishing foods. When I think of nourishing traditions, you know, the whole thing with the Weston A. Price Foundation, I've kind of gotten into that. My diet was actually pretty close to that. We had our innards that were chopped up in stuffing. We had, my grandmother would give me soft-boiled eggs. We ate butter. In Wisconsin, we have a lot of cheese and bratwurst. My dad, my grandpa, and my brother all fished, so we had fresh fish. You know, it was just, when I think about it, it was a pretty good, hearty kind of life, you know, and you don't really think about it because you grow up with it. But then the changes that come really start to make you realize how much we've actually changed. Anyway, so what happened? Basically, I'm eating, you know, meat, I'm eating dairy. I don't really have a lot of health problems. I never really had much issue with anything. I didn't have allergies. I didn't have any kind of problem with physical deformities or anything, or diseases. I had the basic, you know, chicken pox, nothing of real note. But, you know, when I got to be in my 20s, when I was 16, I converted to Buddhism from Catholicism. And that was a big deal in my life. I was basically looking for a new religion because I kind of dropped my God, so to speak. I just couldn't believe in God anymore. So I went and I researched at the high school library, and I found Buddhism. And I thought, this is for me. So I started to do some meditation. I started to read a lot of books. And now Buddhists are vegetarian, not all of them, obviously. But in the Chinese tradition, the Japanese tradition, there are a lot of vegetarian Buddhists. But that didn't really change me. I didn't really think about the nutrition part of it or the food part of it. I just knew that this was, you know, something that I could really relate to. So when I was about 22, I think, like that would have been 24, 1982, I decided I would go on this quest to learn more about Buddhism. So I went out to Rochester, New York. I met a famous Buddhist master there. And I also met a person from New York City who decided that we had a lot in common and he was going to continue to talk to me. You know, I was kind of like, whoa, I'm in the big city, you know, because I grew up in Sheboygan along Lake Michigan, and it was very, very provincial. So all of this, you know, it was kind of exciting. It was really neat to talk to him and to be in this place where there were people that were doing all these different things and had new ideas, and it was really exciting for me. So we started this long distance relationship, and well, I'd say we were maybe it had been, let's see, maybe about 4 months we had known each other. He said, "You got to come out to New York." I said, "Okay." And of course, it was very exciting to me. I'm going to go ahead and do this. I just flew out to New York. Within 1 day, he had converted me to veganism.
Wow.
Didn't take any time at all.
It's a record.
I mean, I went from eating meat to vegan in like 1 day. But the thing about it was that I was really ignorant. You know, I didn't know anything about nutrition. I didn't really care about nutrition. I didn't really have any health problems. So it was kind of more of a thing that he was doing, so I was going to do it. I didn't really think about it. I just thought, okay, he's doing this, you know, and he was making all this food, and some of it was really good. But it was really different. I mean, I didn't even know how to, I remember I was going to cook some beans and rice, and we were living with his sister in Brooklyn, and I decided I was going to make something for them. So I just I didn't know what to do with anything. I'm used to cooking meat. So I threw rice together with beans, with all these spices. I just pulled out all these spices and made this thing that turned into this huge mush. It was disgusting. But I got to be better cook down the line. Anyway, so the other thing that happened was, along with this, in parallel to this, was that they introduced me to the New Age. Now, the first week I was there, I remember I was sitting in his sister's living room, and he says, you know about the New Age, right? And I'm like, I don't know anything about the New Age. What's that? I mean, we live, you know, 1 year goes into the next, and there's no New Age. There's no entity. And they all started laughing at me. And like, "Oh, you're stupid. You're from Wisconsin. You don't know anything. This is New York. This is what we're doing. This is great. You know, all these things." And he started, so that's launched me into something that I had no clue about. But I learned pretty fast, and I got to meet a lot of people in New York. I met Swamis and Roshis and astrologers, and just, I mean, it was crazy. I basically got propelled into this world, like launched, immediately. And, the thing about the New Age, well, first of all, I didn't really understand it. And I don't think I ever truly moved into it, but because I was running alongside it all the time, because I was with him, it just kind of, by osmosis, just kind of drifted into me. And the thing about the veganism, well, I learned to cook, so I got to be really good at that. I also started reading a lot of literature. And I think the thing that really started convincing me that this was the way to go, aside from just doing it because it was with him, was these you've heard of Nutrition Action? It's a group. Well, the Nutrition Action is a newsletter, but the group that puts it out is CSPI, I think, Center for the, I don't remember. I think I wrote it down somewhere, but I don't have it here. Anyway, it's run by this guy, his last name is Jacobson, and he's done all these articles about, how important it is to be on a plant. They didn't call it plant-based back then, but it was a plant-based type diet. So I started reading more and more, and I started becoming my own de facto nutrition expert. And of course, what started happening was I began to think of myself as someone who knew everything about nutrition, and nobody else does. I started actually imbibing this kind of arrogant New York attitude of they don't know anything out in the hinterlands. We know everything here. We knew our stuff. So I started reading more and more, got more into it, and I was a vegan for I'd say about a year and a half while I was with him, or 2 years, probably a little bit longer than that. And what happened with that was our relationship really took a turn for the worst. I don't know if he really, when I look back, I'm not really sure if he really was controlling and dominating, but it kind of felt that way. And I felt depressed all the time. I'm like, why am I depressed? I lost all this weight. I was at 115 pounds, and I'm like 5'11".
Mm-hmm.
So I had, like, my bones were just like sticking out. It wasn't nice, you know. So, but the depression was really hard, and I felt so cut off from my friends. I felt cut off from everybody back home. I think he encouraged it. It was really tough, and it was hard. I mean, it was really hard to be with him. So eventually, we kind of went back and forth for a while. It's a long story, but eventually I decided to come back to Wisconsin and break up the relationship. So I came back, and unfortunately, most of my friends that aside from my old friends, the new friends that I made when I came back, were vegan or vegetarian. So armed with my knowledge and all of their ideas, and we just kind of stayed on that vegetarian and vegan track. And, I have to say that I did feel really good on a plant-based, I'm going to call it plant-based, even though I didn't call it plant-based back then. I felt really good on it. I felt like really energetic, happy when I wasn't with him. But then I would have these bouts, too, of, like, deep depression, which is kind of weird. Like, why am I going up and down, up and down? And that persisted for a while, and then I eventually met I met my then husband. We've since divorced, and I had kids. So here I am, a vegetarian, and I'm pregnant, and I don't know, I had to eat some meat. I kind of went back a little bit, back to my old diet, and that was probably a good thing. I think that was really good for my kids. But after I had my kids, I decided to go back again to vegetarianism. And I have to say that both of my kids had health problems. They had allergies. I never had allergies. Grew up no allergies. My sister, my brother do not have allergies. But both of my kids have allergies. My son got this, after I stopped breastfeeding him, got this really bad case of eczema, and we didn't know what to do about it. It was just, we couldn't solve it. We tried using all these creams, doing all this stuff, it didn't work. Then both my daughter and my son were diagnosed with ADD. That was really tough too, dealing with that, and they wanted to put them on drugs. I didn't want to put them on drugs. So there were some issues. But the main thing with that is that being vegetarian and having your kids follow a vegetarian lifestyle, it wasn't good for them. It wasn't. I know it wasn't good for them. I know they were having behavioral problems. I knew they were having skin problems and allergies. But I was so focused on this. I mean, I read all these books. I thought I knew everything about nutrition. I learned all these things back in New York. I knew I had the best way. Nobody could tell me differently. So I continued to be vegetarian, and I was basically vegetarian for the next, 25, 30 years.
Wow.
I would go through periods of being vegan, then I'd go back to vegetarian. I'd have eggs and cheese. I'd go back to being vegan for some more months. Do that again, and it was okay, but I started having some health problems. And at first, I really didn't connect it at all with the diet. In fact, of course, I thought my diet was the best. So, there can't have anything to do with it. But I remember one of the worst things that happened. I have a little litany here. I can probably read off the list. But one of the things that was really, really frightening was, and this was a period when I was doing really high carb, I thought, oh yeah, grains are the thing. So I was eating a lot of that. I was eating a lot of sugar, carbs, and I know I was eating a lot of vegetable oil because these are mainly processed foods like crackers and that sort of thing, and bars, and and that has a lot of vegetable oil, the processed vegetable oil. So one day, I'm in my little office in my house, and my left leg started shaking uncontrollably. It was so scary. I'm holding my leg, and it was just shaking and shaking and shaking. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? So I kind of run upstairs. I go into bed, and I'm like trying to keep my leg from shaking. And I said to my husband, I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. I don't know if I should go to an emergency room. I honestly don't know what's going on. This is really scary. So it's kind of slowed down a little bit. That was good. And the next day I went to see the doctor. So he said, you know, we're going to give you some blood tests, and we'll also give you an MRI. Okay, so they got the test, and they said, okay, one thing we have to tell you is that you have a hypothyroid condition. So they started giving me meds for that, set me up for meds, and then I was going to do the MRI. I go and get the MRI, and I go home, and I get a call from the doctor, and he says, we found lesions in your brain and on your spine, and we think it's MS. So we're going to send you to a neurologist. We're going to send you to like the best neurologist in Milwaukee, and you know, they can diagnose you further. So I went to see the neurologist. He does some tests. They have you walk this little line and, you know, test how, you know, strong you are and all this stuff. He tells me, you know, I think you do have MS, but we're going to wait like about 3 months or so. We're going to test you again. In the meantime, he sent me home with this packet, and he said, it was interferon, and you know, just look it over. It's something that we found has some success with progressive, or like, I guess it was considered like a lapsing type MS. There's like progressive and another kind. Anyway, they painted this picture like I was going to be in a wheelchair in like 5 years, you know, and I'm like, no, this can't be happening to me. And they said, we're also going to do a spinal tap, and they could rule out that there isn't anything else. I'm like, okay. I was not prepared for the spinal tap. I thought it was going to be painful to get the spinal tap. It wasn't painful to actually get the spinal tap. What was really painful was 2 weeks of living hell after the spinal tap. I think they tell you to drink a lot of fluid, but then they tell you to, you know, drink soda. And it's probably the worst thing for that sort of thing. So I just spent the next 2 weeks in bed calling them almost every day. When does this end? When is this? Your head is just like, it's like a migraine, but like it's constant. And it was just terrible. I think it has something to do with the pressure that changes in your spinal fluid. It has to regain. Anyway, they ruled out then that there wasn't anything else. And then they were saying, they were trying to urge me to get on the drugs. And I'm looking it over and I'm going, you know, these drugs are really expensive. Granted, my insurance company is going to pay for most of it, but the other thing about it is it has like a 12% success rate, and it has side effects. So the next time I went to see the neurologist, yeah, you know, we can start you on the drugs. I said no, and I'm never coming back here. Ever. Left the office, went home. I didn't change my vegetarian diet, but I think the hypothyroid medication really helped me, because what happened was gradually I got better. However, I did have a few other attacks, and one was super scary. I was taking my daughter up to see my parents, and I was closing the door in the car, and all of a sudden I felt like the left side of my face was going numb. And then it like locked, and then I could feel this like tingling and paralysis just like spreading really fast down the side of my body. It's all on my left side of my body. I crumpled. I fell on the floor. My daughter, she's like 2 years old. She's screaming, and I couldn't move. I had to just kind of breathe, you know, and gradually get myself out of it. But it really showed me how powerful this abuse could be, and it's really scared me. So I basically went on Xanax for about the next 2 years just to help me with the anxiety. But the hypothyroid meds did really help. The levothyroxine really helped. And I started eating a little bit more nutritious food, at least. And I think I also like decreased my vegetable oil consumption because I'd read that that was really bad. So anyway, so I stayed, you know, I got better and better, and I actually haven't had any attacks since then. So that's great. I don't even walk with a limp. I don't have any, really any symptoms anymore. And that was about 15 years ago or 20 years ago. So I'm doing really well. But there were other things. I'm just going to kind of go through it. These were other things that I experienced through this period. The MS, hypothyroid, I had the depression. The other thing was emotional instability, big time. I'd go up and down, up and down. Apathy, where I just didn't feel like doing anything. I would just lay in bed. A lot of tooth decay. In fact, I went to the dentist at one point, and he told me I needed root canals in like half of my teeth. Well, needless to say, I didn't have that done, but it was really scary too. Anxiety attacks, I got those, and I would get low blood pressure sometimes, to the point where I would like, everything would just kind of like tunnel vision, and I would collapse. Let's see what kids having. Constant snacking, always snacking. In fact, it was kind of weird because I thought this was supposed to be the most nutritious type of diet, and here I am constantly eating. I mean, if you really have a good nutritious diet, you shouldn't have to eat constantly. But at the time, I'm like, oh no, it's just crackers, and just, you know, I'm just gonna keep eating. Bronchitis, I got every year. And sometimes I get pneumonia. Eye problems, that was another one. I have a lot of floaters. I still have those, but I'm hoping that maybe they'll subside. I developed about 7 or 8 years ago. I was on a camping trip, and all of a sudden I could not see anything in the central part of my right eye. It was just this black, like, spot in front of my eye. Of course, that was really scary. And I got that diagnosed. That was something called central serous retinopathy. I don't know if you've heard of that, but basically it's not macular degeneration per se, but it's a condition where the blood vessels in the back of your eye are actually bleeding out.
Wow.
And then it creates this sensation of this hole. Also, when you look at things, if you look at a grid, it looks like it's bendy. And that would kind of come and go. They wanted to do laser surgery, but I said no because it costs so much money and the insurance company wouldn't cover it, and it's coming and going anyway. And then finally, after about 2 years, my insurance company said they would pay for it. So I had that done. I had laser surgery done, which did correct it, but I still have a little bit of wavy line. So yeah, there's all these different conditions, and I'm like, okay, my sister has perfect teeth. My brother has perfect teeth. They have nice white teeth too. My teeth are not white. In fact, my front tooth has already started going gray. They don't have MS. They don't have hypothyroid. They don't get, I mean, I don't know about depression. I can't speak for my sister. The other thing was gas pain. Totally. And this is the thing. You know, if you follow these starch doctors, plant-based doctors, they always tell you, I know McDougall's big on this. He always tells you, well, if you have gas, that's a sign that you're doing something really healthy. You're, you know, really taking care of yourself. Okay, by this wonderful food. And oh my God, it was like, I would go to work and I had to like sit there and like hold myself. And then I'd be like, okay, I'm going to run over to this other room, relieve myself and come back. And it was impossible. It was like a social stigma big time. I couldn't handle it. Like this is, but again, I felt like my diet's the best. Everybody else, they don't know what they're doing. They're eating meat and they're going to die and I'm going to live forever. You know, it's just ridiculous.
I was there.
Okay. So how do I stop this thing? This roller coaster of like bad things. And meanwhile, my kids are absorbing all this because by now they're in their 20s. Okay. So like, hey, moms have been a vegetarian all this time. She looks okay. We're going to do this. So they never really went completely vegetarian, but or vegan or whatever, but they still kind of accept a lot of that knowledge, I guess, information, and try to be. But the thing that really changed me was that I started, okay, so like I'm 60 years old right now, and I was pretty much through weight through most of my 40s, even my 50s. about 54, I think, or 55, I started to gain weight. I'm like, I never gain weight. What's the deal? I'm already past my middle age. I should have gained weight then. And I'm active. I do kayaking and camping, and I do all this great stuff. You know, I swim, bike. But I had this stubborn, like, pouch, you know, and I knew that you get some of that as you get older, but I thought, this is just, like, not me. It's just, there's too much here. And the other thing was I started getting really tired. And then the digestive issues. It wasn't just the gas anymore. What was happening was I actually felt like I couldn't digest food. I'd eat something and it would feel like it would just sit there in my stomach. Or I would get like a feeling of heartburn or acid reflux. Like it would come back up my throat. And I'm like, this is good food, you know, what's the deal? So I thought, you know, maybe juice fasting will do it. So I'm going to show you this. Raw food cleanse. Yes, cleanse, detox. Detox is the word in the new age world. I thought, you know, I got to detox. Give my digestive system a rest. So, and actually that wasn't a bad idea. I decided to go on the juice fast for 21 days. And, you know, I have all the apparatus. I have the Champion juicer. I have the Vitamixer. I have everything. Anyway, I decided to do a carrot apple juice, like the Gerson method. So I did that for 21 days, and it was really good, actually. I'd wake up, my headaches went away. Oh, that was another thing, I had headaches. My headaches went away. Of course, I was giving my digestion a little rest, so that was okay. And it seemed like I lost a little weight, and my energy levels were better. So I'm like, okay, that's good, good. But the thing about a juice fast is you can't follow it forever. I mean, it's not something that I could do on a regular basis. I tried it, and I did do a lot of juicing, and it always seemed like the juice did kind of pep me up. But then if you think about it, there's a lot of sugar in that too, so that's probably why I was pepped up.
Yeah, the original Gerson therapy, they included raw liver.
Yep.
But then, I don't know if it was his granddaughter or his daughter, whoever took over, she changed it to a vegan protocol, but his protocol wasn't originally vegan.
That's correct.
Yeah.
It's really good that you pointed that out. I think anybody watching this does go out there. It's really important to note that, yes, some of these therapies did use raw liver juice, some form of animal product. Anyway, so where was I? The Gerson method. Okay. So the juice fast was okay, and I did that about 3 years ago. And then I just couldn't do it anymore. I'm like, you know, I guess I thought resigned. It was a sense of resignation. Like, okay, I'm just older, got this weight, and, you know. But the thing was the digestive issues would not go away. And it really bothered me because I thought, again, this is supposed to be an optimal diet. You know, I shouldn't be experiencing this. I shouldn't be getting heartburn. I shouldn't be getting acid reflux. You know, when I'm eating vegetables and whole grains and all those wonderful things. And then, you know, and then I'm still gaining weight. So about, I'd say about a year ago now, it's already, I guess so, I think it's about a year. I decided to go on a water fast. The reason I thought about this was because a long time ago when I lived in New York and I was doing the vegan thing, I was also turned on to people who were doing water fasting. And I tried it for about 3 or 4 days, I think, and it was hard, but I thought, well, that's a good detox. You know, I think maybe I'll try that again. I started reading Upton Sinclair's book, Water Fasting. It was really interesting to me, and that is a fascinating book, by the way. Just a little aside here. He actually, besides advocating the water fasting and showing how it benefited people, he also mentions in a couple of his chapters how people then went into like all meat diets, and how that kind of like bothered him at first because he was a vegetarian. But then he said, you know, I tried it and actually it was really good. You know, just like beef and salt and water, you know. And I read it and I'm like, oh, come on. But this time around, I kind of read it and I'm like, you know, and all milk diets too, they have that in there. So I thought, you know, I'm not cool with the meat, but I'll do the water fasting again. So I tried that and it did seem like it helped me a little bit, but then, you know, I thought maybe it's hard to do this because you get headaches, you know, you really want to eat. It's like 3 or 4 days and it's like too much. So I thought maybe I could just do it for a day. And then I started looking into the intermittent fasting. So I started watching in all these YouTubes and reading all these books, and it looked like something I could do. And I started doing it, and it made me feel better. And not only that, I started losing weight. So I had this graph. I made a Google graph, and I started graphing, like, you know, this day, this day, this day, this day, what I did, you know, what I ate, and, you know, 21 hours, 24 hours of fasting, whatever. And I could see I had this graph. It's great. It goes like, my weight's going right down. So I was really excited about that. I thought that's great. Plus my digestion was getting a little better. And then I started watching Dr. Jason Fung's videos because he advocates intermittent fasting. And that just opened up a whole new dimension for me. I started becoming a total addict for YouTube videos. It's like, Jason Fung, yeah, he knows where it's at. And he's talking about sugar and diabetes. And I thought, you know, that's another thing. I started feeling like I would get thirsty a lot, and, you know, I had to pee a lot. And I thought, that's weird. That kind of sounds like I could have been pre-diabetic on top of everything else. Mm-hmm. So I got real interested in that, started reading Dr. Robert Lustig and the whole sugar thing, and Nina Teicholz, and I think it was Nina and probably Gary Taubes that really started to change my mind. I started to think about the role of saturated fats. First, I knew that vegetable oils were bad, but I didn't really know how bad. And the saturated fat thing just put my head into a tailspin. I mean, it was like in The Exorcist where she turns, I lost my glasses, when she turns her head around.
Yeah.
Like that. It felt like, oh my God, all this time. I started thinking about when I was a kid, and I'm like, yeah, I used to love the butter. My mom would put vegetable or margarine on the table, and I'm like, I don't want this. This is greasy, weird yellow stuff that doesn't taste good. I want my butter. So she'd have to buy butter because I would only eat the butter. Mm-hmm. You know, all those things. I used to take the fat off the pork chops, you know, and eat the fat because her meat was always dried up, overcooked. Mm-hmm. And just all this stuff, you know, I like put butter on everything. And anyway, I thought, yeah, I used to eat all those saturated fats, and I was fine. I was smart. I was thin. I mean, obviously I'm a kid, so I'm going to be thin, but I mean, I didn't have a lot of problems. Mm-hmm. And so it started, you know, your mind, it's when we have paradigm shifts that are really big. I don't know if you had this happen because you were a vegan. Mm-hmm. It's like a piece changes somewhere in the back of the brain. And then it's like this thread that some pieces start to fall in line. And then you read something else, and that piece adds to that. And then before you know it, this whole thing is like shifting around and becomes like 180. Mm-hmm. And wow, when that hit me, it was like an REM song, like Losing My Religion. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. I can't even tell you. So this happened about 6 months ago. So I'm still fairly new at this. But man, I started watching every YouTube ex-vegan thing, just anything I could lay my hands on, reading books, watching these lectures, TED Talks, you name it. Mm-hmm. And I looked at it and I said, you know what? I have been duped. I have been brainwashed. That is so hard to accept. Mm-hmm. But even now, I just feel like, I think that's when my glasses flew off. I feel like it's like somebody took the anchor from inside of you and just like tossed it overboard. But I didn't really feel adrift because I had all these great people with so much information. And looking back, I'm going, oh yeah, you know, I used to write Dr. McDougall about, like, Dr. McDougall, you know, you were writing in one of your articles about how people don't really like the taste of meat, that really all they like is the fun and like the condiments. Mm-hmm. And even at the time when I was a vegan, I thought, that's weird. That's not true. And yet it wasn't enough to like turn my mind around. And remember I wrote to him and I said, you know, I think people really do like the taste of meat. There's something about the taste of meat. And he ended up writing an article about a week later, or publishing an article about explaining the taste of meat. It was real weird. It was very coincidental. I don't know if it was me, and it was I'm going to have to find it and send it to you because it was a really strange article. He tries to explain away why people like the taste of meat or whatever. anyway, so this was a major paradigm shift for me, huge. And so I kept up doing, I'm still doing somewhat the intermittent fasting because it's been really helpful. But I started doing keto, low carb, I just tried all these different things. And now I'm kind of leaning more into like, not really carnivore, I still eat carbs. But I can eat raw meat. And I can eat my liverwurst again. That's the thing. When I was a kid too, my parents at parties, they would have saltines with raw beef on it. I mean, that's what we ate back then.
Steak tartare.
Yeah. So, but this change, it was really hard, and I couldn't really eat the red meat right away. I started with fish, eggs, cheese. Of course, easy cheese here is a big deal. Bratwurst, I always loved bratwurst, and I kept myself from bratwurst for 30 years. And I decided then I was going to try to eat a steak, and I bought a ribeye because everybody says ribeye is really good. So I tried that, and I started like, okay, it has to be medium rare. I thought, I got to do this. I got to somehow deal with the blood. And so I started cutting it, and I'm like, it's bloody, it's meat, it's blood. But I ate it, and I'm like, this is so good. It's like fatty, love fat, okay? It's great. It was fatty, it was delicious. I'm just like, I ate like half of it, and then I saved it for the next day to have with some eggs, and that was even better. But wow, I kept myself from all this good fatty food for so long. Okay, so what happens then is not only I lost weight, I lost about 20 pounds. And then eating the meat and eating more fatty foods and staying off the sugar and getting rid of the grains, okay, I did a lot at once. I kept that weight really stable, which is really nice. And I feel energy. I don't have headaches. But the big thing is two big things, actually. Digestive issue, gone. No more reflux, no more heartburn. It was like, okay, I gave my body a rest with the intermittent fasting, but this is just like, I don't have to worry about any of this stuff anymore. I don't think about my digestion. I mean, when something's working on your body, you just don't think about it.
Yeah.
And I used to walk around, and it wasn't just the indigestion after I ate, it was also just sometimes I felt like there was something stuck in my intestines. In fact, I went and got a couple colonics. I thought there was like something wrong with me. And that pain, it's like, oh, it's gone. I haven't even thought about it for like months, and it has not come back. Mm-hmm. That was a huge thing. The other thing was I went to see my doctor again for my annual, and my PSH levels, they're better. So I brought my hypothyroid medication down another like 25 micrograms, I think. So that was a big deal. I'm hoping that I can actually get off the levothyroxine completely. It was weird too, because like I was taking my, I think 112 was what I was taking. And I noticed that I had a really high pulse, and I was feeling like really like super jacked up, like, oh, I don't feel right, like something is wrong, like something is set too high, a setting is set too high in my body. But when I got the test, she explained to me, she says, you're too high. So they brought that down. That was the big deal. I haven't had any more of those MS symptoms. I don't know about my teeth. They feel okay. I don't have like the feeling that anything is bothering me, which is good. But the emotional stability, fantastic. No more depression. Very, very even. What else? Snacking. No snacking. That's big. And I didn't have bronchitis this year. So I usually get it like in December or January. Gone. Eye problems, I don't know. I don't know if there's any change yet in that. It might take a while because I've had these floaters for a long, long time. So I'm hoping that those will slowly go away. The other thing is with my kids, what I'm experiencing right now in terms of emotional, I guess, reaction is that I feel a lot of regret. I feel it's very painful for me. I feel like I'm actually waking up, and when you wake up, sometimes you have to face realities that are painful, and it's very, very painful for me to think about how I shortchanged my kids. I think that's, sorry, I might even cry. I'm like, I feel like, okay, maybe I didn't do them the worst harm that I could have done, but I just feel that it was the wrong route. I feel totally duped by these plant doctors. I have written to Dr. McDougall several times and his center. I've written some other places. I said, you guys have to change some of your information. You're not up to date. I mean, McDougall, when I really look at it, this guy doesn't even know basic physiology and biochemistry. It's just insane what he is doing. I mean, and I went on to, I'm still on the Facebook site for McDougall Friends, and I kind of naively went in there and said something about, because somebody was trying to say, oh yeah, we had the digestive system of a gorilla, you know, see, they eat all plants. And I'm like, no, we don't. I was explaining it. And so I got knocked off the Facebook page for a week. I went to like their Facebook jail.
Oh, wow.
So I have to be a little careful. But I flipped some things in there. I'm still on their page. I'm going to stay there because I like to be able to look at what people are experiencing. A lot of these people on this page are talking about being bloated, feeling like they need B12. There's all these health problems. And oh yeah, we just have to follow him more. You know, we just have to be stricter about this. And I kind of
more starch.
Pardon?
Eat more starch, apparently.
Eat more starch. Just keep eating more starch. But the thing that really gets me about it, and I see this more and more, of course, you see it in the whole political situation that we have in our country right now too, is this kind of cult-like thing going on where people just, they get into their tribe, you know, and then they're just following that person or that trend or whatever it is, and thinking critically for yourself, researching for yourself, to some degree, I think is impaired. Eventually, I think a lot of these people are going to learn just what I did. You know, they're going to have health problems and they're going to make changes. But I don't know. It's really hard to look at this and not try to not say something. I've even thought of messaging some of these people, like, this is what you're doing. You know, it's hard. It's and so I'm trying to get my kids to, like my daughter, she's still, oh, you know, canola oil is good. I'm like, oh. Mom, I know you're eating meat, but it isn't really that good. Saturated fats, you know, so now I have to like re-indoctrinate my kids. I feel so bad about that. I really do. And like I said, I feel a lot of anger toward these plant-based doctors. And I am so happy that you're doing what you're doing. Getting the word out there, it's so important. People need to know this stuff. People need to be able to get real information, you know, real facts, not just somebody saying, oh yeah, you know, follow the potato diet, you know, or eat bananas, or, you know, you're going to be healthy. You know, I've had 30 years of this stuff, you know, I'm 60 years old now, and it's like, I don't want people to go through what I went through. And, you know, it's funny because, like, I was talking before just a little bit about, like, the historical perspective. So, like, when I was growing up, supermarkets, at least where I lived, were very small. They weren't like these huge places that we have now. Okay, and most of the stores we went to actually were pretty small, grocery stores. And they didn't have this huge, like, freezer department. They didn't have a lot of snacks. I mean, we had maybe one brand of potato chip. And now I walk into a store, and I have to say I still have retained a little piece of that memory from when I was a kid, because I walk into a store, and each time I go in, I still feel like I'm amazed. Like, there's row after row after row of just frozen starch. You know, there's just pizzas and like all these processed foods, these TV dinners. I didn't even know what a TV dinner was growing up. They were like maybe Swanson things and some like aluminum foil, you know, that tasted really bad. Nobody ate them. And now it's like all over the place. Just convenience food. I can really see why people are getting sick. And people, you know, people back then too, it wasn't like people were not obese. See, there was one fat person, okay, in my school, in my grade, okay. And she was tortured mercilessly. You know, they called her Whale. Her last name was Whalen. So they called her Whale, and, you know, all this stuff. And it was really sad, but that's, you know, kids are cruel. But that just points out to you how few people actually were overweight. Kids were not overweight. Mm-hmm. And now look at it. They have diabetes, you know, type 2, type 1 is actually increasing. This is not right. We have to make some changes in our society, you know, in our personal lives. So, I don't know, I guess that's my story. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I want to talk to you about. I think that's really it. I think the thing about the Buddhism that I started out with, I'm still a Buddhist. And in my, I guess, sect of Buddhism, which is Chinese, there's still a lot of vegetarians. Vegetarian is still promoted as, you know, the highest form. But it's done for, like, ethical reasons, in the sense that, you know, you want not to kill an animal, kind of like the Jains. You know, there are a lot of Buddhists that eat meat. And I've had to really change my philosophy on that too, and think about, you know, the nature of suffering. And I was never really into vegetarianism specifically for animals, but I have to say that we can do this without so much suffering. We don't have to have giant feedlots. You know, we don't have to have this industrial farming. We could have smaller farms, grass-fed animals. When I think that I've stopped all my snacking, wow, you know, I don't have to eat as much. And that means I am less of a burden on the planet. And if everybody is less of a burden on the planet, you know, and I know, I think you've probably seen Leah Keith's videos.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for her, that was mostly vegetarian on and off. Vegan, I was never a strict vegan, except for those first 2 years. So her story is just horrifying to me, really. I'm like thinking to myself, I really dodged a bullet there. But I love when she talks about how the really ethical thing and the really good thing to do for our planet is to sequester the carbon in the ground, which means we have animals that can, you know, feed on the grass, develop, you know, through their stomachs, you know, really compound all of the things that we need as humans, and then also, you know, help the grass to help the grass grow and sequester the carbon. So this whole thing about, like, cows, all their, you know, the methane and all this stuff that's going to, like, cause global warming, these people have that off too. So I'm really starting to see too, you know, that this can be ethical. It's not, it's not just a matter of, I'm just doing it for my nutrition. We're doing it for the planet. So, yeah.
Yeah, because it's a lack of greenery, not an excess of cows. And cows will actually, because the problem is, like, the desertification of land, how everything is dry. So when you herd animals, the cows fertilize the grass, the land, and then the methane gets trapped. Like, the gases get trapped in the soil. But because we don't have enough greenery, the rainforests and cities and all of that, that is the problem, is that the gases aren't being trapped. They're being released. And, like, back in the day, there were so many bison. Like, in North America, there were so many bison. More cows than we have now, and we didn't have a problem because they were living naturally. Right.
No, I didn't think about that, but you're right. That's my cat.
Yeah.
You want to say hi? Hello. This is Lizzie. Down you go.
Yeah, they're mistaken on the whole cow CO2 thing.
Yeah, that was it's very enlightening to look at all these different facets of I guess, I don't want to call it just meat eating. You know, it's really going off the plant-based thing. Like I said, it's a real paradigm shift, and you know, finding out just how hard it is on our environment, on our bodies, it just changes the whole view of everything. I'm hoping we can get more information out there and keep this going.
Yeah. Can I ask you if you took any supplements or if you took B12 at all?
Oh yeah, I took B12, B3. If you look at the D3 capsules, they have soybean oil. Let's see, I was taking kelp capsules. What else was I taking? Magnesium, because I get muscle cramps. That's another thing about muscle cramps are being alleviated. What else was I taking? Oh, I took for a while those algae supplements.
Mm-hmm.
Nasty. Nastiest, grossest stuff. In fact, even while I was still vegan, okay, I put it into my smoothies. I'd like put it in water, you know, I just like chug it down. I'm like, this stuff is gross, you know. And I remember my daughter got a bag of it. She was working at a health food store. She said, Mom, I know you're taking this stuff here. You can use this. So I had it in my cupboard, but for some reason, I would just tell myself every day, okay, I'm going to put that in the smoothie. No, I don't want to do it today. I'll do it tomorrow. Put it in the smoothie tomorrow, you know, the next day. So I ended up with this bag of like green powder sitting in my cupboard for like 3 years. And finally I said, this can't be good anymore. I'm just going to, maybe it'll compost. So I have a compost pile in the back of my yard, and I just tossed the whole bag in there. And I know it was probably expensive. I think she got a discount on it, but even so, it was probably expensive. But that stuff is really gross. And the more I look at it, I mean, who eats that kind of stuff? I mean, it's harvested in like, it has poisons in it. It's disgusting. What else did I take? Well, I think it was sometimes a multi. I didn't really take a lot of supplements. I think that was part of my problem. I really should have been supplementing because I really wasn't getting enough nutrition. When I think about it now and I look at the things that I ate, I'm like, wow, did I even how did I even survive? You know? Yeah. So like there's no nutrients and all the anti-nutrients.
I've seen, and I honestly don't think it matters. Like I've seen people who supplemented heavily and people who didn't, and they both had similar symptoms. They both failed. I think if the diet isn't right, then the supplement's not going to do much. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would take it with food. I would think, oh, that's going to help it. But apparently it wasn't enough. And I think right about that. I think that the ALA, I know they talk about that. I was taking some flaxseed oil for a while, thinking I needed, more omega-3s. Because that was another thing I thought that, and I didn't know if it was because I was just getting older or what, but because my aunt was sharp to the very end, and she died when she was 96. And my grandmother, she died when she was like 96. And so, and they were all sharp, they're mentally sharp. And I'm thinking, why do I feel like I'm like, my memory just doesn't feel like it's as good as it should be, like bringing up references to things. I used to be so like on it, and now I have to, what was that, where was that from? And so I thought, well, omega-3s will help. I was taking fish oil. What else? Well, again, this is all real spotty though, because I wasn't doing these things on a regular basis. I don't like taking pills. For a long time, I couldn't swallow a pill. So I would either have to like put it in a smoothie, and that took work, and I'm lazy. I guess mainly I just thought that juicing would do it for me. So I did a lot of juicing and would put in all the green vegetables. Another thing I noticed was, this is really weird. I don't know what this was due to, but I would make, because Dr. Furman, I don't know if you've seen some of his stuff, but he's really big on the kale. I think he's the one who popularized kale. Single-handedly. But I thought, well, I should start putting greens into my smoothies, because I was making smoothies or I'd do it with juicing, and then I'd also do a smoothie. So I gotta have more green. Well, I put the kale in there, and I don't know what it was about kale. Spinach I didn't have as much of a reaction to. But put this kale in there, make this shake or whatever, this beautiful ferment concoction, drink it, and it would feel like somebody was choking me. Like there was something, it was like my body was rejecting it. Something about the kale. I don't know. I don't really think I had an allergic reaction per se, but I think there was just something, some kind of sensitivity maybe that I had.
It's pretty common. I think it's a reaction like with the thyroid, because when I would eat goitrogenic food, my thyroid would swell up. And kale, and especially raw kale, it's the highest in goitrogens.
That makes total sense.
Yeah. So I had the same sensation where I literally felt like I was like being like choked by my own thyroid, because it was like swelling and tightening in my neck.
Yeah.
After I had kale.
Exactly like, and at the time, you know, I didn't have any idea. I thought it was, well, this is really nutritious. I should be doing this. So I stopped doing it, which was good. But I really do think, you know, I ate so many goitrogenic foods. I'm sure that my thyroid was affected. I mean, why does my sister not have it? Why does nobody else in my family have it?
Yeah.
A problem with their thyroid. So, yeah, that's, again, I really do blame these plant-based doctors. I think they're slowly going to fall out of favor as more and more information comes out about saturated fats and the importance of saturated fats. Because even when I was a vegetarian, I remember reading reports of people who tried to become vegetarian, and they said they'd get really dry skin and their like hair would fall out and stuff like that, or get like really, well, that's another thing, my hair is much nicer. It's shinier. But they'd complain about this, and I thought, well, that's, you know, they shouldn't have that. They have a really nutritious diet. Maybe they're doing something wrong. But now that I look at it, I think they were highly deficient in a lot of these necessary fats. I hold these plant doctors responsible. I really do, and I'm going to keep writing. And I'm just going to keep up my own little campaign, and try to do what I can to, like, I know it's hard because like some of my friends are, oh, you're not vegan anymore, you know, or you're not vegetarian anymore, and I have to explain everything all over again. Unfortunately, I haven't lost anybody over it because I never actually became an advocate, you know, on YouTube or anything. I think I was spared that way. Man, the other thing about vegans, I mean, when I look at, again, that arrogance thing, that feeling superior, wow, have I been humbled.
Yeah.
I used to think I was so smart. I was like the smartest person on the earth. Okay. And now I go, I was so dumb. You know, it's a big wake up call. Like, I was brainwashed. I was so dumb. I knew part of the picture. I just didn't know all these other parts to the picture, and I was avoiding them. I wouldn't even look at other information. I mean, if it came to me inadvertently, that was the only way I could see it. But yeah, I see now when I see these people on I watch YouTubes, or I read things in some of these Facebook, you know, these posts. Not everybody, but a lot of people are really combative and like mean. You know, I listened to a podcast. It was McDougall and Jimmy Moore. It was 2013, I think. And this was my old beloved doctor, right? I was listening to this podcast, and he's attacking Jimmy, attacking him. Like, Jimmy is just asking questions. It's like, okay, you know, maybe I'm not totally right about everything. I want to hear what you have to say, but, you know, don't just attack me and call me, well, yeah, why are you fat? And I'm sure your bowel movements are bad and all this stuff. I'm like, you wouldn't even give him a chance to talk. I also want to post that on that Facebook page, see what people think, because he's so rude. And I thought, why? I mean, I think we can be open-minded about this. We can, like, I can say to people who eat plants, you know, are still vegan or vegetarian, you know, if you really want to follow that, and like, if you feel that's good for you. I mean, I don't think it's right anymore, but, you know, I'm not going to attack you for it. I'm not going to tell you that it's wrong or bad. I'm just going to say, you know, maybe you want to look into this information. But I see people being attacked, and it's just really sad. Why can't we just open our minds and just all have a conversation? You know, I mean, this isn't what it was like. I mean, if you think about it, like back in the early 1900s, there was like no heart disease. like before 1900. And people were eating all this meat and butter. And now, of course, this is just associative and we can't really rely on it. But, you know, when those vegetable oils started becoming popular, I mean, my mom started, you know, she started baking with Crisco. That was her big thing. When those things became really popular, that's when heart disease started rising. And I think that's something to look into. I think, you know, associative, you know, set of data is something to look into. Why is this happening? Why are so many people dying of cancer? Why are so many people still dying of heart disease? There's a reason. And it could be a combination of reasons, but there sure is something wrong with our food. There is something wrong with our food because most of what we're experiencing comes from what we put into our body. So,
going to be doing a series of videos on every which way we're getting poisoned from.
Oh God, that'll be really good. So you're going to do like a segment on this and a segment on that, or are you going to kind of combine it, or historical, or?
Just everything. Like I have so many videos to do. I don't feel like I have enough time. So I'm not going to do like ex-vegan stuff forever, but because I also want to inform people. But right now, because this is so like close to my heart, because I went through it myself and I see others suffering online and going through it, I feel like compelled to mix the ex-vegan stuff in with my health stuff as well. But yeah, there's so many topics to cover. There's so many things that it's hard to even have a direction to go into because there's problems with almost everything that there is.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be tough. So you're able to do, like, you have a practice and then you also have your channel. And you also, do you have any books or anything that you've written, or are you in the process of doing it?
No. I'm still fairly new, starting my career. The reason why, so I see clients on the side, and then the reason why I started my YouTube channel was because I wanted to, one, educate people for free, because when I was sick, I couldn't find free information. I couldn't find it in like in layman's terms. I couldn't find it in a digestible manner. It was either very scientific or guru diets. Like there was no like middle, you know what I mean? So that's one of the reasons why I started, and also to like attract clients.
Yeah.
So in the health industry, people have to feel very comfortable with you before they want to go with you. And there's so many people out there that don't know what they're talking about, that I feel that me having a informative channel will help people, one, like see who I am, and two, see that I know what I'm talking about, and therefore help me to meet with clients. Yeah.
That's great. So you're out east then, because you're on the eastern.
So I'm Canadian, from Toronto, but yeah, my boyfriend lives in New York, so I'm back and forth all the time.
Yeah. I didn't even pick up that you're Canadian, because usually I can tell. I have good friends who live in Hamilton and used to live in Toronto. I used to go to Toronto a lot. Usually I can hear that O, you know, the ow. And I didn't really hear it in you, and I thought, well, maybe she's from New York. Yeah. Well, that was
the more I talk, it comes out.
Oh, I just heard it.
Yeah. Out.
You know what they used to do when they laughed at me that I didn't know the New Age. They laughed at me because I say roof and milk. Okay, that's like Wisconsin-y. So, yeah, I was a little dialect. One thing I noticed, something else I was going to tell you. The thing that I find funny, well, not really funny, about Dr. McDougall. I guess I center on him because I followed him for so long. But he always talks about these traditional diets, okay, that traditionally we ate starch. And that, you know, the first, and his whole thing was he went to Hawaii, he had his practice there, and he said first generation is healthy, second generation is less healthy, third generation is the unhealthiest. And he blamed it all on hamburgers, right? So he said, yeah, because they ate rice, the first generation. So, you know, I didn't really question that, but, you know, I've traveled around the world, okay? I've been to Southeast Asia. I've been to Europe. I've been to like Caribbean, you know, different places in the U.S., Canada, Mexico, Cuba. I've been everywhere, right? And people eat meat.
Yeah.
And he's talking about, yeah, these first generation people, they didn't eat, you know, no. That's not my experience. I mean, when I was in Taiwan, these people ate these noodle soups. Okay, they had noodles in them, but they had fish heads in them. Okay.
Yeah.
It was this grayish, it didn't even look appetizing, but it had like innards and fish heads and, you know, and they eat all this stuff, chicken, you know, feet.
They eat the whole animal, like from nose to tail.
Exactly. And that was my experience. And then, of course, reading, you know, archaeological literature, anthropological literature, you cannot escape certain facts. And for these doctors to go out there and say, this is what these people ate, they ate squash and beans and rice. Like, you are, this is absurd. It's absurd. I mean, this is not traditional food. It's a part of traditional diets, and I know that they talk about the blue zones and, you know, the Okinawan diet, you know, that's the Thai and plants, but, you know, Okinawans eat a lot of pork too. So, and they conveniently leave all this stuff out. It's this cherry picking, and you know, it's dangerous, really dangerous. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah, I really have, like I said before, I love your channel. I subscribed. And, you know, I just want to be really supportive in every way to people like you. And, you know, I also, I can't think of all the other people I follow, but their voices, our voices need to be heard. So, you know, if you want to write a book, I think that would be great. If you have time for that. I just, cat's tail, come here. Wow, oh boy. The more information you get out there, the better it's going to be. It's going to help people. You're helping people. So yeah, I don't know if you have any other questions for me, but thanks for giving me the time to tell my story. It's not really like, there's so much to it. I mean, there's just like all these twists and turns, but I'm not going to go into all of it. But it kind of brings up memories too, like that I'd totally forgotten about these things. Like, oh yeah, we used to eat the stuffing with the chopped up livers on it. You know, and my grandma made egg custards for us. And oh yeah, and I remember she had vegetables from her garden, and she would cook them in milk and butter, you know, fresh vegetables from the garden. And she lived to be 96 years old, and she was, you know, the thing that killed her was Vioxx. So she got a stroke within a week of taking Vioxx. But yeah, all these traditional things, you know, we need to get back to that. And yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So thanks.
Thank you for your time.